Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. UFC Vegas 79, Rafael Fiziev versus Mateusz Gamrot just ended, and this is going to be my full card post-fight. I'm going to go through every single fight on the card and give you my reaction and breakdown to the result. Starting off with the first fight of the night, Montserrat Rendon versus Tamires Vidal. Montserrat Rendon wins via split decision, 29-28. This was a horrible fight. I had Vidal winning round 1. I had Rendon winning round 2 and round 3. And basically, Vidal was landing the harder shots in the first round, landing some decent combinations, landing some heavy leg kicks, which really is what she relied on for the entirety of the fight. But in the second and third round, it was kind of even on the feet. And then the second round, Rendon got a takedown later in the round, maybe a minute and a half left, had some top control, had some damage. And then in the third round, I think it was about halfway through the third round, Rendon got a takedown, controlled her, held her down, landed some damage, didn't really do a whole lot. I mean, the entirety of the fight was boring, but you just had Rendon basically winning with her grappling and doing okay striking. But really, honestly, after watching this fight, neither one of these girls really belong in the UFC, and this was a super uneventful fight. Moving up on the card, we have Mizuki Inoue versus Goldy. Talk about uneventful fights. You have Mizuki Inoue winning via unanimous decision. I think she won via 29-28. The third round maybe could have went to Goldy, but this was another fight that was just hard to watch. If you missed these first two fights, don't go back and rewatch them. Basically, it was a clinch fest. Inoue landed some good shots on the feet. Goldy was just constantly clinching up. So was Inoue. And I felt like Inoue was just getting the better of the clinches. In the second half of the second round, Goldy started to get a little bit more urgent, but there really wasn't a whole lot of damage done in this fight. There really wasn't a whole lot that went on in this fight. Inoue got a couple takedowns, ended up on top, but not for super long. I think Goldy got a takedown in the third round. Didn't end up on top for super long. Wasn't a whole lot of damage done. But I thought Mizuki Inoue clearly won this fight. But super low-level fighters, bottom-of-the-barrel UFC fighters. And Inoue, we kind of give her a break, maybe because she's been out for a while and maybe there was a little bit of ring rust. But essentially, the entirety of the fight was contested in the clinch and not a whole lot of damage being done in the clinch. Moving up on the card, we have Mohammed Usman versus Jake Collier. Mohammed Usman won via unanimous decision. And this fight was pretty easy to score. Jake Collier clearly won the first round. He hurt Mohammed Usman on the feet, was landing good combinations in the first round. It looked like there was a chance the way Mohammed Usman was moving compared to Collier, the way he was leaning into certain strikes. Collier landed a couple knees moving in and rocked him, I think, with a left hand at one point in the first round. It looked like, okay, Collier is going to win this fight. He was landing some good leg kicks as well. But then the second round, it seemed like Mohammed Usman just started to take over. And there was an eye poke early in the second round, so maybe it'll be a little bit controversial because Collier got eye poked. It wasn't a horrible eye poke, but it did graze the eye, so it's one of those things. You know, any eye poke can be a really bad eye poke, even if it doesn't look particularly bad. But after that break, which happened the first minute of the second round, so you already had the break in between rounds, and then you had like a 3-4 minute break after that first minute of the second round. Mohammed Usman landing the better shots. Footwork looked a little bit better. Jake Collier not being super urgent. And Mohammed Usman busted him up in the second round. And then the third round was more of the same. Usman was pumping the jab, landing good combinations, circling out. And then maybe 2.5 minutes left in the third round, Mohammed Usman picked him up, dumped him down, and controlled him for the rest of the round. I had it as a clear 2-1 for Mohammed Usman, second and third round. But in this fight, honestly, and I hate to keep saying this is bottom-of-the-barrel heavyweights. I'm not super impressed with either one of these guys. Mohammed Usman at least looked half decent on the feet, half improved on the feet, but really the footwork looked terrible. Just the overall stiffness looked terrible. I mean, the way Mohammed Usman was kind of on the feet, he looked robotic in a way, but his stamina at least held up, you know, to a certain point. You know, for heavyweight it held up. And, you know, he lost the first round, got hurt in the first round, adjusted, won the second and third. So a decent win for Mohammed Usman. Moving up on the card, we have Jacob Malkoun versus Cody Brundage. Cody Brundage won via disqualification. And this is one that I don't know if I'm in the minority or what. This was a horrible call all the way around. And Cody Brundage should be embarrassed of himself. You know, his entire family should disown him. And he basically pulled an Aljamain Sterling route without really even getting hit. So what happened in this fight, Cody Brundage came out throwing some wild combinations, looking for takedowns, and there were some scrambles, and Cody Brundage was looking to scramble. After about 45 seconds to a minute of the first round, Cody Brundage completely quit. Jacob Malkoun is controlling him on the ground, beating him up on the ground, landing some good shots. And there was some questionable punches, but people don't realize the back of the head is considered the mohawk. It's like a 3 to 4 inch area on the dead center of the back of the head / neck. And Malkoun is throwing a ground and pound elbow as he has the back of Brundage. But Brundage is kind of turned to the side when Malkoun brings the elbow up to throw it. As he brings the elbow up to throw it, Cody Brundage turns into it. And the elbow doesn't even really land super clean. It's more of the forearm to the base of the neck, which is still considered illegal. It was not a super damaging shot. It did not land super clean. And I know someone's going to say, how do you know? You could see it in Cody Brundage's face when he was complaining about it as soon as the shot landed. Cody Brundage just looked up and was like, and he clearly wasn't hurt. There was really no damage done. Cody Brundage starts acting like he got hit by a car. He is sitting there against the fence. I knew he quit because even before that, after that first 45 seconds, you could tell he quit. He just stood there and did nothing, just took damage, did nothing. He showed up for a paycheck. And after he got hit, he said, this is my way out. I didn't take a lot of damage with that elbow, but Mark Smith saw it. I'm going to get I'm going to get out of this fight one way or another, whether it's a no contest or a DQ. I thought it was going to be ruled a no contest because even though you can't hit the back of the head, it's not like Malkoun was aiming for the back of the head. The elbow, and I went back and rewatched it, the elbow was already up and in a progress of motion as Brundage turned into it. And again, it's not like it landed super clean. It more or less landed to the lower, base of the neck as well as the shoulders more than the actual back of the head. And it was actually the forearm. The elbow didn't even land on the back of the head itself. But Brundage sat against the fence, looked defeated, acted like he couldn't continue, and they call off the fight. They wait like 3 or 4 minutes. They finally call off the fight. And I'm thinking, okay, they're going to say it's a no contest. Mark Smith is one of the worst referees ever. First off, the guy can't whisper to save a life. Remember him whispering right in front of Aljamain Sterling? If Aljo can't continue, it's going to be a DQ. I wonder if he did any whispering tonight that we didn't catch on TV because he's the loudest whisperer known to man. He rules it a DQ. How can you rule this a DQ? There was barely any legitimate impact. It was an action that was in motion, so it's not like, okay, he clearly threw this elbow to the back of the head and, it's not like Brundage didn't move at all. It was in motion where both guys were moving. It's no different than an accidental groin shot. Are you going to start DQing people for accidental groin shots? How can you give Cody Brundage this win? How can you give him this win? He doesn't deserve this win. He doesn't deserve it. He put on a show. The guy is an absolute bum. He needs to be cut from the organization. And a matter of fact, I hope no other organization ever picks him up. And I believe the UFC will cut him. But dude wanted out. He wanted to quit. He wanted to show up and get a paycheck. And now he even gets his win bonus. And I'm not typically one person to ever try to stand between another grown man and his money. But to give him a win bonus. And Mark Smith single-handedly did this. Because you quit in a fight from a strike that didn't even damage you. Cody Brundage is an embarrassment of a man. He's an embarrassment of a UFC fighter. And this is exactly an indication of the lower barrier of entry into the UFC over the past few years. The bar is getting lower and lower and lower and lower. Cody Brundage is literally Cody Bumdage. He is a bum. He came there. He showed up for a paycheck. He's a bum. He didn't even want to fight. He didn't even try. I'm not even sure he trained for this fight. And he went out there and looked for an opportunity to quit. He found his opportunity, and it pays off because guess what? He's getting paid for that win now. He's getting paid a win bonus. An embarrassment. Mark Smith is a dumbass. Jacob Malkoun, you're dominating the fight also. You have to be a little bit more careful there. But I cannot believe this was a DQ. This should have been a no contest at best. Honestly, you know what? It should have been a DQ. They should have DQ'd Cody Brundage. Oh my God. I would have loved. Imagine they said, we've stopped this fight due to a DQ for Cody Brundage acting like he got hit and acting like he got hurt. I don't understand. You see these brutal KOs all the time, Edson Barboza versus Terry Edom, Jorge Masvidal versus Ben Askren, Alex Pereira versus Israel Adesanya, the second one. And you see these guys that get put out cold. Apparently they recover faster than somebody who suffered from a slightly illegal blow. Because Brundage act literally like he got hit by a car. You seen Aljamain Sterling roll around on the ground for 6 minutes. How does Alex Pereira literally get sent to the shadow realm and then 30 seconds later he's perfectly fine? How does, guys like Terry Edom or Ben Askren who get brutally stiffened, KO'd, all of a sudden they're fine a minute later, they're up, everything's good, but you see these guys who are itching for a DQ. They're acting like Rogan when he's overreacting to a KO. This guy literally came in and quit. This is basically a rigged fight, and he leaves with his win bonus. An embarrassment. Mark Smith should be embarrassed of himself. This is horrible decision-making, too, because they should have looked at the replay, and they should have been like, well, it wasn't intentional. I know it was an intentional elbow, but when he's throwing the elbow, it's not like the target was the back of the head. He moved into that elbow that then hit the back of the head. It's just an embarrassment. And the elbow didn't even really land at the back of the head. It was more the forearm at the base of the neck, which is still illegal. Fair enough. But Cody Brundage should be embarrassed of himself. He needs to be cut from the organization. I never want to see him on a UFC card again. He came out and quit. He sucks. He doesn't have any fighting ability. Go get it. I mean, what is Cody Brundage doing? Is he auditioning for the next shot at Bo Nickel? Is that what he's doing here? I can't even talk about this fight anymore. Jacob Malkoun should have gotten the win, but I guess it should have been a no contest, really, if you want to get technical. But there's no realm that this should have been a DQ, and I'm absolutely disgusted with this result. And I don't care about either fighter. This is the way it should have went. It should have been a no contest, bare minimum. But Cody Brundage, he wants to get an Academy Award, I guess, and that's what he's aiming for in 2024. Moving up the card, we have Tim Means versus Andre Fialho. This fight was very, very fun. Tim Means wins via third round TKO. First round, Andre Fialho was eating some shots, but he was moving forward. He was looking to pick apart Tim Means, looking to land big shots, and he backed Tim Means up against the fence. And he was waiting, and he was standing in the same spot, and he was looking to pick a big shot. Boom, gets clipped with a knee, hurt badly in the first round. Tim Means swarms him, looking to just finish him, looking to hurt him really badly. Andre Fialho is able to recover in the second round, or in the first round. Comes out in the second round. And in the second round, it seems like Fialho is starting to get a little bit momentum back. He actually hurt Tim Means badly, starts swarming him up against the fence, landing good combinations. Tim Means is hurt. But then Fialho stops because the fight hasn't been stopped. He spent all his energy, and he just got absolutely destroyed after that because he was completely gassed in the second round. In that second round, after he went for the finish, he became completely gassed. And Means really started to land good combinations, good elbows, good knees, just pressing forward. And then towards the end of the second round, Fialho got a takedown. Means reversed it, ended up on top, landed some good shots. And I thought maybe up until that point, because Fialho had the big explosion and almost finished, he could keep that round maybe, even though it was getting close to going back in Means' favor because he landed in the second half of the second round. With the reversal, with the ground and pound on top, Means clearly won the second round. Third round, Fialho is not there. Means clips him with a head kick that kind of goes through the guard, hurts him badly, just starts swarming him with combinations. He just absolutely melts Andre Fialho. And Fialho recovered quicker than Cody Brundage in the fight before that. But Tim Means, the Dirty Bird, damn near 40 years old, now gave Fialho his, fourth loss in a row. So I feel bad for Fialho, but Tim Means gets it done. The Dirty Bird gets it done. Fialho just... once he starts getting clipped up and, he's hurt badly, it's like he cannot recover. And Tim Means went out there and put it on him. And Tim Means didn't even look in the best shape that he's ever looked in his entire life. He kind of looked off tonight in a way. If you looked at his overall physique, he didn't look like as good a shape we've seen him in the past. But he went out there, he was countering Fialho well. He was ripping good shots to the body, ripping good elbows standing, ripping good knees. And Fialho just didn't have an answer for it. He was getting clipped up, hurt badly. Means weathered a storm in the second round that lasted about maybe 45 seconds to a minute. After that, after Fialho spent himself in that second round, I knew it was over. I knew it was over. With the way that second round ended, I said he's going to get TKO'd in the third. Sure enough, Tim Means goes out there and smashes him in the third and gets the TKO. Moving up on the card, we have Miles John versus Dan Argueta. Miles John wins via unanimous decision. I scored at 30-27 for Miles John. But I could see a universe where maybe you could give it to Dan Argueta, but I personally wouldn't. First and third would have to be for Argueta, but I really don't see the logic behind it. Basically, Argueta in the first round. You could give Argueta the first round. That is the one round you could give him. He got the back. He was looking for the rear naked choke. It actually looked close at one point in time, but wasn't able to get it. And Argueta's striking just looked horrible. He's rushing in, basically looking to create scrambles and takedown attempts. He's eating big shots. And that was basically the entirety of the fight. Now, in the third round, Miles John was kind of tired. Argueta's rushing forward, but Miles John was still landing better shots. So I had it all 3 scored for Miles John. I just said the damage, obviously, that he landed with the big shots as Argueta's rushing in outweighs any of those grappling exchanges Argueta had. Now, he got in some instances where, he might get close to a guillotine here. He might get close to a rear naked choke here, but he never really did any damage, and it never outweighed or was never long enough to outweigh those big shots that he was eating, rushing in to engage Miles John so he could get the takedown. Takeaways from this fight, Dan Argueta has a crazy chin. Dude was eating massive haymakers, but overall, he's just too one-dimensional. He just wants to grapple and use his BJJ and look for submissions. He just doesn't have the striking to keep up with anybody who has decent striking. Miles John doesn't even have the best striking, and he was gassed in the third round and was still landing big shots on the chin of Dan Argueta. So Miles John gets it done via unanimous decision. Moving up on the card, the first fight on the main card, Charles Jourdain versus Ricardo Ramos. Charles Jourdain wins via first round guillotine. I picked Ramos in this fight, and I thought I was going to be right. Ramos got a takedown early. Jourdain looking for a guillotine early. Looks like he's going to end up in the Von Flue choke because he has the guillotine. He's holding on to the guillotine, but Ramos is in side control. And Ramos starts to set up the Von Flue choke, which, basically he uses his shoulder pressure and head pressure versus, the arm of Jourdain holding onto the guillotine that sets up that choke. And he doesn't get it. Then he ends up kind of abandoning it. Then he kind of tries to reposition, ends up in half guard. Then there's a scramble, looking for another takedown, looking for a single leg. Jourdain looks for the guillotine again, which he'd been looking for all fight multiple times. Every position he's looking to set up a guillotine. Gets the guillotine, and then Ramos, instead of trying to circle out, he circles right into the guard. And once he circled into the guard, I was like, okay, this might end up finished here. But it looked like his head was going to pop out. It was very close to popping out, it seemed. But Charles Jourdain was just squeezing on it very hard. He had the full guard, and boom, Ramos taps out. He kept putting his neck out there. There was multiple times where it looked like Jourdain was going to get this guillotine throughout the fight. And Ramos, I guess, got too comfortable. He gets submitted in the first round. Charles Jourdain, I got to start picking him in fights. I picked against him in this fight. I picked against him in his last fight against Kron Gracie, which talk about Kron Gracie, talk about an embarrassment, butt scooting all over the cage. But Charles Jourdain gets it done via guillotine in the first round. Moving up on the card, we have Bryan Battle versus AJ Fletcher. I really thought I picked Bryan Battle in this fight. I really thought after watching that first round, I'm like, this is going to be another bad pick. Bryan Battle's going to lose this fight. He looked horrible in the first round. I'm going to be honest. All he did was throw teep kicks and stand literally flat-footed right in front of AJ Fletcher, just absorbing leg kicks. AJ Fletcher was just smashing him with leg kicks the entire first round. Bryan Battle, all he did was throw teep kicks. And then at the end of the first round, AJ Fletcher catches him with a big elbow that hurts him badly. Drops him. He never gets really close to a finish, but clearly hurt him badly with that elbow. Then he goes out in the second round, and it appears that it's going to be more of the same. It's going to be him just eating leg kicks. But then Bryan Battle starts to really pick up the pressure. He starts to press forward. I guess maybe, I'm tired of eating all these leg kicks. My leg's absolutely battered. Starts pressing forward. Then that causes AJ Fletcher to clinch up with him and look to start wrestling. Bryan Battle had the grappling advantage. And in the clinch, there's a while where Bryan Battle is just kneeing him to the body over and over and over again. He has a massive height advantage. AJ Fletcher literally looked like he was 5 foot tall in this fight. And Bryan Battle just beating him up with knees to the body, just pointing those knees right into the ribcage. Eventually gets a takedown. And then it's like AJ Fletcher just kind of gives up. Eventually gives up his back. Then, immediate rear naked choke. Literally no defense, not fighting the hands, and just, okay, I'm tapping out now. It was a very weird fight to watch because it seemed like all the momentum was going for AJ Fletcher after the first round. Then the second round, he just shit the bed. It seemed like he had the striking advantage. And then he ends up, okay, I'm getting pressured now. Let me grapple. And then he gets out-grappled, out-bodied in the clinch, outworked on the ground, and just easy rear naked choke for Bryan Battle once he got him to the ground. So solid win for Bryan Battle. Another win, another finish on his winning streak. I think he's now finished the last 3 fights. So Bryan Battle, tough winner, looked pretty good in this fight, gets the finish in the second round. Moving up on the card, the featured fight on the main card, Marina Rodriguez versus Michelle Waterson-Gomez. Marina Rodriguez beat the brakes off her badly. And honestly, the beginning of this fight, I thought, Rodriguez is screwed. Because I picked Rodriguez, I thought this was an easy win for Rodriguez. She got taken down early and she's just laying there with her closed guard, not trying to get up, not trying to get her knee on the belly, not trying to get the feet on the hips, and she was just being controlled, and Waterson wasn't doing any real damage, but she's just being controlled, and I'm like, if that's the way the fight's starting while you're fresh, this isn't going to end well. But she eventually scrambles, she gets back to her feet, she starts landing knees to the body, which really start the whole thing, and then boom, she just starts smashing Michelle Waterson. Elbows in the clinch, multiple short elbows in the clinch, Muay Thai clinch, knees to the head, knees to the body, just beating up Michelle Waterson, walking her down as Michelle Waterson's constantly trying to clinch and look for takedowns. And honestly, Michelle Waterson was getting beat up so badly. She was so bloody. And Kerry Hatley, I believe, was the ref. He was getting so close, even though Waterson was still moving and still throwing strikes back. I guess because she was busted up and bloody. But I feel like refs are more prone to do that in women's MMA. Stop the fight earlier. But Marina Rodriguez absolutely dominated her in the first round. Almost gets a finish, just based off Kerry Hatley's body language and the way he literally, I think, almost touched her at one point. The second round, Marina Rodriguez comes out and basically starts off where she left off in the second round. Just starts bludgeoning Michelle Waterson, beating her up, knees to the body, knees upstairs, elbows upstairs, landing combinations with her hands. And then Michelle Waterson goes for a desperation takedown, doesn't get it, ends up giving up full mount, basically falls to her back, gives up full mount. Marina Rodriguez lands a couple ground and pound elbows and punches. Boom, Kerry Hatley steps right in. An easy win for Marina Rodriguez. Michelle Waterson honestly needs to retire, but she's never really been all that good. People used to just hype her up because they were kind of simping for her because they thought she was attractive. She's been punching air for as long as I can remember. She has some okay kicks. She has some okay grappling, but she's never really been a good fighter. Marina Rodriguez, arguably on her way out herself. I know at one point, not that long ago, she was on the verge of a title shot, but getting up there in age has had her grappling exposed multiple times, but she went out there and brutalized Michelle Waterson. Gets the job done in the second round via TKO. One thing I will say is, and I've said this for a while, I have no problem with this stoppage, but I'm telling you, the referees are more inclined to stop women's MMA fights earlier. Kerry Hatley, the way he was getting so close to him during the exchanges in the first round, don't get me wrong, Michelle Waterson was getting beat up, but the way he was getting so close, like he was going to stop it off 2-punch combinations, and Marina Rodriguez just walking her down, it was going to be like a standing TKO. It would have been a weird stoppage. And then also in the first round, I forgot to mention, with 30 seconds to go, Marina Rodriguez is just bashing her up, moving forward, landing elbows. You have Michelle Waterson trying to scramble away, move away, and throw back. And you have Kerry Hatley, who calls a break for a bloody nose. He called a break and called a doctor in for a bloody nose. Meanwhile, Marina Rodriguez is clearly walking her down, looking to try to start a finishing sequence. So horrible referee by Kerry Hatley. But inevitably, I have no problem with the stoppage. But I'm just saying, if that was any other male's fight, like a male's title fight or a big fight, and that type of stoppage or that type of activity by the ref, especially in that first round, a lot of people would have been complaining, but again, I have no problem with the stoppage. Moving up on the card, the co-main event, we have Bryce Mitchell versus Dan Ige. Bryce Mitchell wins via unanimous decision. I believe there was 2 scorecards who had it 29-28. One scorecard had it 30-27 for Bryce Mitchell. I'm not going to lie. I think this was a robbery. Or if not, it was almost a robbery. Because you look at that fight, Bryce Mitchell clearly wins round 3, just grappled the entire time. Really did no damage in round 3 at all. Bryce Mitchell did no damage at all, but he grappled the entire time, was in the advantageous positions, and Dan Ige did nothing in the third round. He didn't do any damage either, and he ended up on top for maybe like the last, I want to say, 20 seconds of the third round, but there's no debate Bryce Mitchell won the third round. The second round, there's absolutely no debate that Dan Ige won the second round. Bashed up Bryce Mitchell, had him bleeding badly. Looked like it was going to get stopped due to doctor stoppage because Bryce Mitchell's eye was just smashed. He ate some massive right hands from Dan Ige. And yeah, Dan Ige stuffing the takedowns for the majority of the second round. And the second round was so clear. It was so clear. And there was so much damage done by Dan Ige. And then you have like the last minute and a half, 2 minutes, Bryce Mitchell gets a takedown. He gets full mount, but he does absolutely no damage. And there's like a minute and a half left in the second round. And it was clearly Dan Ige's round. There's no debate about the second round. It's clearly Dan Ige's round. In no universe other than maybe Mike Bell's universe is the second round anyone's round but Dan Ige. You go to the first round. The first round, I thought it was clearly Dan Ige's. Dan Ige outstruck him, and then it was literally the last minute of the first round where Bryce Mitchell got a takedown, got full mount, but really didn't do all that much damage. I went back and rewatched the sequence of that last minute of the first round because I knew the first round was the deciding factor of the fight. And Bryce Mitchell landed 2 clean shots at the end of that first round. And before that, I think Dan Ige clearly outstruck him, was landing the better shots on the feet, had Bryce Mitchell busted up and bleeding underneath his eye. And I just thought the first round was pretty clear for Dan Ige. The only argument that I think you can make is, maybe Bryce Mitchell, he landed a couple teep kicks in that round, but nothing really landed super solidly. And I think Dan Ige clearly still outstruck him in the first round. The only argument is that it was even up until the takedown. And then Bryce Mitchell getting the takedown, landing a couple shots from full mount is what won him the first round. But in no universe should this have been a 30-27. And to be honest, I think it was borderline a robbery. When I watched it live, I'm like, that's a robbery. I thought going to the judges' scorecards, I'm like, that should be a clear 29-28 win for Dan Ige. I don't know what judge gave the second round to Bryce Mitchell, but they need to be investigated. There needs to be another seminar. Because round 2 for Bryce Mitchell is one of the most disturbing scorecards I've ever seen. But Bryce Mitchell, more fun for the featherweight division, I guess. There's at least that, but it's just awfully weird. People say, oh, UFC's fixing fights. Now you have Bryce Mitchell, who has that, WWE-esque angle to himself. And again, he's not actually playing a character. He is authentic, but it's weird. You have Dan Ige, a guy who's been around forever, not particularly exciting personality, and all of a sudden you have this. These weird, awful scorecards where you have the second round that couldn't have been scored any other way, gets scored for Bryce Mitchell, makes absolutely no sense. I want to see which judge scored it. But overall, this fight really proved what we already knew. Bryce Mitchell has trash striking. He has some okay kicks, can't land anything with the hands at all. And basically, Dan Ige beat him up and then was getting out-grappled for small instances for the first and second round. Dan Ige started getting tired in the third round, got taken down. I think he scrambled back to his feet once, and then that's when Bryce Mitchell had a big slam, had the back, had the body triangle, at one point flattened him out, had his back, but Dan Ige really never accepted any positions. Really, in the third round, didn't take any damage. I don't remember Bryce throwing any ground and pound in the third round. And just got out-grappled for the entirety of the third round because Dan Ige started to get tired and Bryce is just relentless with that grappling. But overall, you look at this fight, Bryce Mitchell did no damage the entirety of the fight. And it's just sad that you have a fight where one fighter did no damage and they win the fight somehow and one judge gives it 30-27. Meanwhile, he leaves. It looks like he should have been a doctor stoppage. And I know visual damage isn't everything. And Bryce Mitchell, his eye got busted up primarily in the second round, but it's just crazy to me. You think back to that fight, no matter if you thought Bryce won or not, and you're like, oh, when did Bryce do any damage at all? I couldn't tell you. 2 good shots in the full mount at the end of the first round in that last minute or so where he had the full mount. That's it. That's really it, because in the second round, even though he had the mount for longer, didn't do any damage with it, didn't throw any shots with it. Third round, I don't remember a single shot. So you have a guy who threw no damage, did no damage to his opponent. He somehow wins the decision. I think it was a robbery. I think Dan Ige should have got the win. But overall, Bryce Mitchell was the highlight of the entire card. This card was underwhelming. You had Bryce Mitchell holding up the Bible before his fight, screaming freedom, which was absolutely hilarious. The post-fight interview was hilarious as well. He made Dan Ige stick around. And he's like trying to pray, and he's saying the government's, started fires in Hawaii and stuff like that. And Bryce Mitchell is just such a character. He's straight out of King of the Hill. Honestly, he's really straight out of King of the Hill, but he's not playing a character. That is who he is. So I absolutely love that, and it's hilarious. And it is more interesting for the featherweight division. I hope he gets a big matchup in his next fight. Wouldn't mind seeing the Movsar Evloev fight. I also kind of want, and you guys tell me what you think, I want to see a fight against Diego Lopez. I know that kind of doesn't make sense because Lopez isn't ranked, but I would love to see that matchup. That'd be a fun fight. But honestly, Bryce Mitchell's never going to be towards the top of the featherweight division. He's never going to be that good. He's just a guy who can kind of melt you with wrestling and tire you out with wrestling. He's never going to have good hands. He's never going to evolve. He's never going to have good fight IQ. And every time he loses, I suspect he's going to make some type of excuse for that loss, like he did the Ilia Topuria loss. So if you're making excuses for every loss, how are you ever going to improve and fix those deficiencies, the reasons why you lost? But overall, it was the highlight of the card. Honestly, Bryce Mitchell before the fight and Bryce Mitchell in the post-fight interview was the highlight of this card. Moving on to the main event, the very disappointing main event, Mateusz Gamrot versus Rafael Fiziev. Mateusz Gamrot gets it done via second round TKO. This main event was super disappointing. First round was really, really good. You had Mateusz Gamrot landing some good straight shots. You had Rafael Fiziev ripping to the body, landing good leg kicks, landing good shots upstairs as well. First round was close. You had Gamrot look for a couple takedowns. He would get the leg of Fiziev, hold it all the way above his head, but somehow Fiziev was able to keep balance and not get taken down. I thought Fiziev clearly won the first round. I thought it was very close because Gamrot did land a couple good straight shots, but the heavy leg kicks of Fiziev, the good body kicks of Fiziev, the combinations ripping to the body, and then he did land some upstairs as well, just outweighed what Gamrot did on the feet with a couple straight shots that landed really flush and really, really good. But I thought Fiziev clearly landed the better shots, and I feel like that was the majority opinion. I think most people scored round one for Fiziev. But the first round, it seemed like, okay, stuff is just starting to heat up at the end of the first round. Second round, you go out there and you have Gamrot shoot an early takedown. He gets a takedown, gets some control time, but you have Fiziev scramble right over to the fence. And basically you see Fiziev defend some of the grappling of Gamrot, eventually, get up against the fence, break the grip around the body lock for Gamrot, and then turn into him and then escape. And then they're back to striking again. And it's just about to get back to some of those striking exchanges. And we can see Gamrot maybe initiate another takedown. And Rafael Fiziev throws a body kick. He hurts his knee, falls to the ground. Gamrot follows up with a couple ground and pound shots, but it was already over. The ref, as soon as he saw the knee injury, he ran over to stop the fight. The commentators were off on this injury initially, so if you turned it off early, you might not understand what actually happened. And live, it looked like, okay, the kick that got blocked, his ankle's hurt, his shin's hurt, he's got a broken leg, something along those lines. It wasn't actually the leg that he kicked with, which I don't even think Gamrot realizes. It was the leg that he posted on to throw the kick. His knee popped. There's some type of injury with his knee. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to, say, oh, it's definitely his ACL. It's definitely his MCL, whatever it may be. Something happened with his knee. His knee popped as he's pivoting on that post leg to throw the body kick. His kick got blocked, but that's not the leg that's injured. It's his left leg that he posted on. The right leg is what he threw the kick with. It landed on the arm of Gamrot, and the commentators kind of acted like that was the leg that got injured. Initially, it seemed like that at first, but then once you actually looked at it, you realized, oh, while he was posting on that left leg, the knee popped. Now, ultimately, Gamrot ran around and celebrated like he won the lottery, and I get it. He won. He's going to get his win bonus. He beat a guy ahead of him in the division. I just think it's a fraudulent win. It's a meaningless win. It absolutely means nothing, Fiziev was winning the first round. Second round was super competitive. We don't know who's truly better. I'm not saying Fiziev is definitively better, but it's not a real win. It's a fraudulent win for Gamrot. And Gamrot, it just seems like Gamrot can't get a credible win to save his life. You go back, you look at the Arman Tsarukyan fight. Most people agree that Arman Tsarukyan won that fight against Gamrot. Then he loses to Beneil. Then he has the fight with Jalen Turner. Now, that was on short notice. Some people thought he lost that fight. I thought he won that fight. But now he fights Rafael Fiziev. Oh, we're finally going to get answers. How good is Gamrot? How good is Fiziev? He goes out there and gets a controversial win. I don't know what's next for him. I would like to see him fight Grant Dawson after Grant Dawson just absolutely murks Bobby Green in the next couple weeks. I think that fight would be super interesting, but it just sucks. It really sucks. This is a fight I've been looking forward to for a long time. This is the perfect main event for an Apex fight card. This is the perfect main event for a fight night card in general, no matter where they go. And just to see it ending in controversy with no real answers, because I thought Fiziev, okay, he's going to win a lot of the early striking exchanges, but how is his grappling going to hold up as he starts to get exhausted later in the fight? And unfortunately, we really don't get those answers. So I'm super disappointed in this. I don't know how long Rafael Fiziev is going to be injured for. And then Gamrot basically gets a win, but it's not really a win in anyone's eyes. So maybe Gamrot runs a rematch with Jalen Turner. I'd like to see him fight Grant Dawson. But ultimately, the main event was a massive letdown. It really was a massive letdown. And overall, this card really was a letdown in general. I mean, you look at all the fights. The best fight on the card was Marina Rodriguez versus Michelle Waterson. Bryce Mitchell, Dan Ige was a decent fight. You had Charles Jourdain getting the early stoppage. The Bryan battle, AJ Fletcher fight was okay. You had the second round stoppage. But outside of that, you look back. Okay, Tim Means, Andre Fialho was good. But you look at the amount of duds. The first four fights were literally garbage. And then Miles John, Dan Argueta, okay, fair enough. But this card was massively underwhelming. You had this great main event and just did not deliver. So I'm super disappointed on that. Because, leg injury on a leg that he's posted on, it's not even, we can't even say, Gamrot blocked it, so he caused the injury. So shout out to Gamrot. And even that would have been still kind of a fluke. But this is your definition of a fluke injury. The way he posted on that leg, his knee just buckled on him. So it's unfortunate. UFC Vegas 79, massive letdown. Let me know what you guys thought of the card down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And thank you so much for watching.